I say good morning, Belize, and good morning, and how are you this morning?
Ladyville, a quiet commuter community outside Belize City. But between 2015 and 2018, it became the center of one of the bloodiest feuds in Belize's gang history. From the murders of Rene Fat Cat Chavarría, to the ambush that left Lionel Rhamdas dead, to the shootings of Casey Lozano and Marlon Spain, and finally the execution of Alrick Smith in Belize City. Ladyville became a battlefield. The chain of bloodshed began with Kenroy bouncer Arnold. On March 17, 2015, Arnold was shot dead during a wake in Ladyville. It was not the first attempt on his life. Just weeks before, men including Alrick Smith had been charged with conspiracy after a failed attack against him. But on this night, the gunman's shots hit their mark. Arnold's death was the first domino, and Ladyville would never be the same. Almost exactly 1 year later, on March 21, 2016, tragedy struck again. Rene Fat Cat Chavarría was executed on Mirage Road in Ladyville around 9 p.m. His killing was a turning point. Fat Cat's death was not random. It was seen as part of the ongoing feud, and his execution sparked fresh waves of revenge that turned Ladyville into a war zone.
Further investigation led to the discovery of Rene Chavarría, who was shot multiple times and apparently dead in the Milpa area in some bushes. We have since launched an investigation into that shooting incident where we have some named suspects that we're looking for at this time. We found on the scene 2 9mm expended shell and the 12 gauge expended cartridge, which was recovered on the scene. I know that he was involved in a number of incidents. As a matter of fact, he's purported to be the leader of the Rocky Road gang. But we know the motive for this shooting, and as soon as we capture the 3 suspects, actually 2, we have 1 in custody.
Fat Cat was no ordinary target. His death was a calculated strike that enraged his allies and put rivals on high alert. For Ladyville, it marked a turning point. After Fat Cat, the shootings came faster, deadlier, and closer to home. Not long after, Ladyville was rocked by the Compassion Lane ambush. Gunmen stormed the yard of Casey Lozano, opening fire on the men gathered outside. The shooting left several wounded, and the attackers tried to flee. But the ambush backfired. Lionel Rhamdas, one of the gunmen, was shot dead on the spot. His death at the scene showed how unpredictable and deadly these clashes had become.
Rhamdas, along with Darwin Prado and Egbert Baldwin, reportedly attacked a group of men socializing at the Lozano family home on Mirage Road. Terrence Flowers Jr., Casey Lozano, and Lyndon Gillett were all injured. But in the crossfire, Rhamdas was mortally wounded and died on the pavement. With the shooting death of Rhamdas, retaliation is expected. On Thursday, several reports were made that there were 4 gunmen circling the Milpa area of Ladyville. Police soon after intercepted a vehicle with at least 1 relative of Rhamdas. But the spate of killings in the Ladyville jurisdiction started with the March 8th murder of Rene Fat Cat Chavarría. Since then, 3 others have lost their lives to gun violence, including Merkel Pitts, Lloyd Gerald Roberto, and most recently, Lionel Rhamdas. So what are the police doing to mitigate the ongoing gang war in the village?
I cannot speak to specific operations that we have in the area, but what I can say is the fact that we are covering the area as well as other areas that needs to be maintained in terms of, like I said prior, we have not not just 3 different groups, but 4 different groups that we have to really cover and look at to ensure that we stave off the problematic retaliation of these shootings.
Police quickly charged Egbert Baldwin and Darwin Prado for storming the Lozano yard, and in a major development, Alrick Smith was also charged with abetment to murder. The case tied some of Ladyville's most notorious names together and put them squarely in the center of the feud. But the story didn't end at Compassion Lane. Casey Lozano, the man whose yard had been stormed, became a marked target. Not long after, Lozano himself was shot in a separate attack. This time he was not able to get away from his attackers and did not survive. The murder was proof that the feud was deeply personal. Marlon Spain was also shot multiple times in this attack and died on the scene. He was an innocent casualty of this ongoing war in Ladyville.
The gunmen would set chase after Casey Lozano, who was shot to the back and side. He also died en route to the Carl Hushner Memorial Hospital.
Police were called to an area in the Maraj Road where they observed a male person on the ground, motionless. This person was learned to be Casey Lozano, and another male person by the name of Marlon Spain. Both of them had several apparent gunshot wounds to the body. Casey Lozano was found about 200 yards apart from the first body. So far, what police has gathered is that there were a group of male persons hanging out in front of a yard where Lozano and Steen were part of that group. When 2 lone gunmen came from a bushy area behind the house, fired several shots at a male person. In the process, there were other bystanders who received injuries to themselves. Police processed the area where they found several expanded shells.
Murder has rocked Casey's family because he was the cook in the family and would be the support at his mother's restaurant. Cynthia Usher says this is the second son to be killed. She had a conversation with Casey just before the shooting occurred. Usher says all 3 of her sons ran from the gunmen. Unfortunately, Casey could not escape the barrage of bullets aimed at the group. Marlon Spain died on the spot near the steps to his house on Mirage Road, some 200 yards from where Casey's was found. According to police, he has not had run-ins with the law and was caught in the gun violence. His family says they want answers for his murder.
Man, I appear out of the bush. I shoot my brother and thing now.
Okay, so he made it right there?
He just to come outside of the house, go for a drink a glass of water.
Okay.
Yeah, and I see him step here so, the gunman come and through the bush and shoot the man now.
These senseless murders and shootings were taking a toll on the residents of this once peaceful village. It seemed as if there was no end. People no longer felt safe in their own home, and being outside only became something to do as a last resort. Meanwhile, Egbert Baldwin and others faced charges over the Compassion Lane shooting. But as the cases moved slowly through the courts, the streets moved faster. When Baldwin was released, he was quickly targeted. Gunmen ambushed him, showing once again how stepping out of prison in Belize often meant stepping into danger. Even though Casey Lozano was no longer alive, it did not stop the retaliation on Egbert Baldwin from happening. For the families of Ladyville, it felt like there was no end in sight.
At around 7 o'clock on July 18th, he was riding a bicycle on Jackson Avenue, which is close to the Mirage Road area, which, according to residents, is when his assailants ambushed him. They opened fire, unloading a massive spray of bullets, terrifying residents in this quiet area. Baldwin was shot multiple times, and he ran 100 feet to a nearby home. He showed up at the door bleeding profusely from as many as 5 gunshot wounds, and reportedly forced his way through an unlocked door, pleading with the owners for help. They called the Ladyville police. Unfortunately, the shooters did not follow him into the home. In the process of trying to kill him, one of the shooters injured an innocent 44-year-old passerby. It's another explosion of violence in an area that has become notorious for gunfights and bloodshed in the last 5 years.
One figure kept reappearing: Alrick Smith. Already charged in connection with the Lozano ambush, Smith became one of the most recognizable names in Ladyville's feud. He was constantly on the news and had several unsuccessful attempts on his life already. In 2017, he was shot in Belize City during a brazen attack, but Smith survived. His narrow escape from death made headlines and left many wondering how long his luck would last.
Alrick Smith is currently in a stable condition at the Carl Hirschner Memorial Hospital after being shot to his neck. Reports are that Smith was on Coney Drive in Belize City in his vehicle when a blue Chrysler with no license plate rolled up beside him, and the driver of the vehicle opened fire on Smith.
Smith's luck finally ran out. Late one night, outside a radio station in Belize City, Alrick Smith was executed in a hail of gunfire. The boldness of the attack shocked the public. For many, it symbolized the final chapter of Ladyville's bloody years, but also a reminder that gang rivalries never die. They only move on to the next target.
When someone ambushed him as he approached his parked SUV facing the building. The shooter apparently carried out the attack out of the view of the surveillance camera that is perched under a ledge at the side of the building. Police report that the car dealer, a resident of Matron Robert Street in Belize City, was leaving the media house along with a female companion when he was approached by two male persons who fired several shots at him. The images show Smith's limp body crouched up next to the vehicle. Someone who was in the area told News 5 Today that the burst of about 10 shots was not preceded or followed by any argument or speeding vehicle. Another well-placed source told us that Smith was a guest on More FM, one of the radio stations housed in that building. He had reportedly sponsored a monetary prize on a program which Blue Steel Songs had just finished airing at 10 p.m. This amateur video posted on Love FM's page minutes after the incident shows the police cordoning off the scene to begin their evidence-gathering processing. Prior to his visit to the radio station, Smith was a patron at a popular lounge not far away. The killing of yet another well-known gang member brings into sharp focus the bloodbath that rival gangs have obviously entered, as well as the joint effort between police and mediators to stem the bloodshed.
The shootings of Kenroy Arnold, Rene Fat Cat Chavarría, the ambush and the death of Lionel Rhamdas, the targeting of Casey Lozano, the killing of Marlon Spain, and finally the execution of Alrick Smith. Together, these killings tell the story of Ladyville's bloody feud. Between 2015 and 2018, the community was held hostage by revenge, where freedom from jail often meant death, and surviving one attack only made you a target for the next. It was a cycle of blood that left Ladyville forever changed. This was the story of Ladyville's bloody years, told through the lives lost and the families left behind. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe as we continue exploring Belize's hidden stories behind the headlines. Once again, thank you for spending your time with me, the Beard Man.